right here. We saw her in game number 1 here today, where Flamey just absolutely popped off on that pick against Cronen's Rivens. Like, personally, I'm glad that they're taking it away. It's a strong pick from Flamey. I would not want to go up against it.
Yeah, I certainly wouldn't. And things like the Vlad, like the Cassiopeia, these short-ranged carries have been something I've been really impressed with Flamey about. So yeah, seeing that taken away makes a lot of sense. But a lot of top lane and obviously jungle bans focus by Split Raiders.
Yeah.
But would you expect this Hecarim to ever go top lane? Because I've been seeing a lot of people pick that up recently.
I would love to see it go up in the top lane. It would give you that engage that currently someone like Wukong can provide. But talking about top laners, Mordekaiser still left in the conversation, but instead they're going for a tree rook. That's not something you see very often. And that's going to be very open to be punished if a Mordekaiser would to be picked, or even if it's going into the jungle. Hell, you can just pick a Lee Sin or Seth, and then suddenly you're going to have such a hard time as the jungler from Glorious Gaming.
It certainly has, but also can see some flex towards that bot side into that support role, and we've been seeing a couple of people pick that up. Speaking about that support role, Senna, and I mean, Senna's been a very strong pick. It might go to Electric God, it might go to Bonakai. They really can flex it around, and I mean, Split Raiders have been showing us that they can do many different things.
And I quite like the Senna pick overall, seeing as how you're already going up against that Maokai. You just know right now that you will be perhaps going up against a bit more of an mid to late game oriented team composition, depending on where the Maokai will be going. So there's no reason to just show too much yet. You can just pick something safe, something that can scale up. And picking up that Ashe alongside that Senna means that you're going to have such a strong bottom lane in terms of poke. And suddenly Glorious Gaming, they need to find an answer. And, well, I like what they're going for.
I mean, yeah, it certainly is spicy, and also confirms the side of the map where this Maokai is really going. I like the Blitzcrank, and very good at dealing with, well, both Senna and Ashes. They don't have too many escapes. Senna can do a little bit, but obviously doesn't have a dash or anything like that. Might have to expend that flash early on. So looking at an interesting bot lane right now as they're really looking to put some pressure on as the Jhin picked up for GG Whisper.
So a bit of an unorthodox bottom lane coming in from the Glorious Gaming side. Jhin and Blitzcrank. A lot of kill pressure, but it's going to be so hard to get onto someone like Senna and Ashe unless you're going to have a jungler come in to try and help you gank. It's going to be hard to get onto as well. But the safe pick here would be that Mordekaiser. So you're still not sure whether or not Maokai is going into the jungle or the top side. So just picking a duelist into the top side would just mean already now that you're forcing Maokai to go into the jungle. And you could then save your last pick on the side of Split Raiders for the jungle, and you could really punish this Maokai if he's going into set role.
Yeah, I don't know if Sis will really let that happen. I think Samus wants to play some more of these aggressive junglers. We saw from him in his last game, Camille has historically been a Camille player. I don't know if that's particularly great here, but I think Split Raiders as well, making the assumption that it's not going to be the jungle, taking away that Graves early, and obviously Graves quite a power pick right now.
Yes, indeed, and it's interesting to see that the Split Raiders are the ones taking away these strong junglers. Obviously, you mentioned that Samus probably wants to go for something more aggressive in the jungle, and I can understand why. I just wouldn't want to be Cizay going up against the Mordekaiser when you're playing a Maokai. Obviously, it would suck for Samus to go with Maokai into the jungle as well, but it would just make it a tad easier for you to at least do something in the top lane instead of just leaving that lane completely in the favor of Lawless.
Certainly does. And we've seen what Lolos can do when he has control of that lane. We saw his Aatrox earlier today, and wow, that was impressive. Basically, solo carried the entire game on his own. Not that Split Raiders really needed it. They were winning in basically every role, but was a huge factor in that and setting that up. And that is an MF. I'm going to quickly check to see if there are any replacement picks, but no, okay, so confirmation. Okay, that's supposed to be an Ivan going in the hands of Seitsu here, and I think I've seen him play Ivan before, and I think it'd be a really good pick for this team right now.
Yeah, I like it as well. You're right now playing around having a strong Mordekaiser and a strong Ashe, so you can buff up those two with that Ivan. And seeing as how you don't know who you're going to go up against in the jungle. Possibly that Maokai has been mentioned so many times now. If you're going to go up against Maokai as an Ivern, that's just going to put a stalemate in the jungle, and you can really afford to then go for that scaling jungler.
You certainly can. It's actually supposed to be a Wukong ban there, where there is the blank, and it's Karthus Wukong getting banned away, so a lot of focus towards that. So not surprised to see that Ivan getting picked up. And there is that Camille. There is no Maokai in the jungle. It's going to be a Lux mid for Perun. A lot of interesting picks coming on here. And here's that trademark low range carry for Flamey. But I feel like that could be potentially problematic if he gets hit with that binding. Perun could deal a lot of damage to him very quick.
Absolutely, and instead that's going to be a different placeholder. Surely production will let us know in just a second who Lucian will be.
It could just be Lucian, to be fair.
You're right, it could be. I just think that if you're going with Lucian, you're going to have so much AD on your side of Split Raiders. And I mean, they can't afford to do this. Again, as we mentioned, there's 3 weeks left to play. You only need to get into top 6 to get to playoffs, top 2 to get into semis. So you can't afford to just play around and try some different compositions. But you're going to have a lot of AD, and you're going to go up against the Maokai. He's going to be a super tank, and it's going to be very hard for you to tear through that tank with that Lucian.
Certainly is. Flamey, though, I think with that Lucian, definitely someone to keep an eye on. Is very impressive. That it looks like we're having a remake just so we can get those picks on and should be right on quickly. But where do you think this Ivan's really going to focus on the map then?
I would like to see the Ivern focus up towards the top side. Down in the bottom lane, we have the Senna and the Ashe. I feel like they have enough power on their own to really keep this Blitzcrank and this Jhin at bay. You have so much poke that you don't really need to go down there to help them. So instead, focusing on the top side where you have a Mordekaiser that can really kill this Maokai that doesn't have any escapability, that is only really tanky and can't really fight back, makes more sense in my head. And it ends up being Illusion in the mid lane.
And that doesn't surprise me too much. Maybe you could have swapped around Mordekaiser and Lucian, but in this matchup, you definitely want that Mordekaiser in the top lane. Lotus definitely strong on that as well. I think I've seen him historically play it as well. So I think Split Raiders have a really good setup. I think the only potentially questionable one is the Lucian, but I think in that matchup in the middle lane, he should really be able to shut down this Lux. And I think the big question here is how much pressure is Samus going to have on this Camille? Because obviously Camille can make ganks from, well, basically out of nowhere, kind of like a budget Zac.
That's a good point you're making, Rogue, that with that Camille, you can really move around the map and you can really make a lot of plays. And I'm looking forward to seeing Samus. You've talked about how Samus prefers these aggressive junglers. So now with that, that Camille in hand, Rogue, I believe in your prediction that Samus will use this aggressive jungler to perfection.
I believe he will as well. And I'm definitely looking forward to how he's really going to make that happen. Now, speaking about playmaking, I haven't seen too much of Kayron. I haven't watched many of Glorious Gaming's games, so I want to see how Thor and Kayron are really going to make it work in the spot lane, because that is going to kind of be make or break. Whether he can land those hooks onto Bonakai, onto the Electric God, is really going to determine the pace, specifically of the bot lane.
Absolutely, but we've talked about how the bottom side from the Split Raiders, they have so much poke that it's going to be hard for Kayron and Whisper to really get onto Electric God and onto Bonakai. What they can look for instead would perhaps be to move into the mid lane and try and make a play with that Blitzcrank. It's going to be hard with Lucian having so much mobility, but it would be a safer choice for you to do. But as you mentioned, Camille has a lot of mobility, and if you play with Camille down on the bottom side, you wait for her to gank, then suddenly that Blitzcrank can have a tad more kill pressure, though still would have a hard time getting onto the bottom lane of Split Raiders.
His position will be very difficult. Especially when we load in, I want to see what kind of runes Bonakai is looking for, whether they're going more damage or whether they're going the more standard tanky build, whether they've taken Glacial Augment. There's so many different things that you can kind of iterate through. I expect to see the tanky build from Bonakai, but on the whole, you don't really need to bring that 80 damage because you've already got the Ashe who should be dealing out a lot. You've already got the Lucian should be dealing out a lot. You don't need to really supplement it. What you want to do alongside that, Ivan, is really keep your team alive because they are very happy to try and find these skirmishes, find these kind of long out fights where they can put down that consistent damage.
That's a good point, Rourke. And well, I kind of want to go more in depth with Bonakai, but once we see his summoners, sorry, not summoners, runes, that's what I want to talk more about because like you've started to see more of that Grasp of the Undying coming out. And if you're still gonna go for that and not gonna go for what's it called, the inspiration instead, if you're not gonna go for the glacial augment, then suddenly it's going to be a whole different pace down in the bottom side. But we can talk about that once we see the runes. Then we can talk about the pros and the cons for Bonakai.
Certainly can. In talking about pros and cons, I really want to look at Flamey because I think, as people are kind of talking about, Flamey is doing this to really prove himself because most of what we've seen him on are things like standard mid lane mages, maybe some Syndra, but also things like Cassiopeia, things like that Vladimir, and bringing out an AD kind of more aggressive style from him rather than kind of waiting till that kind of mid game. This Lucian is a bit of a statement from him, and I'm excited to see whether that statement is going to actually succeed or whether it's going to fall flat and on deaf ears.
Well, Rook, we can only wait to see once we get closer into the game, but my prediction for this game will be that the Split Raiders, just coming in with a tad more experience, are going to be the ones doing better in this game. I feel like their composition is more well-rounded. They have power in every single lane, whereas the Glorious Gaming team have power, but it just feels more like it's comfort picks, and it's all these individuals who have power, whereas Split Raiders looking more as a whole, and Glorious Gaming looking like individuals.
It certainly does. And the thing which sticks out the most to me there, other than obviously Samus's, I'm not a big fan of Kweildrong right now, but they had a pretty decent game when they were playing before, even though it didn't end in much, is this Lux for Perun. And I think that's going to raise a lot of questions. If you can land these bindings, if you can set up for these combos, great. But the question is, will they?
Well, definitely in the early game, we're going to have a hard time, I'd imagine, seeing those bindings coming in from Perun. You're going up against Lucian. He's a lane bully. He has a bloody ignite as well. So, like, he's really just looking to kill you. You're not going to get a good chance at shutting him down and locking him down as well with all his mobility. So, Perun looking more towards just getting out of that laning phase. You don't want to fight too much against Flamey.
He doesn't. Otherwise, he will tear you a new one. Well, at least we assume, as I said before, Flamey unproven so far on things like Lucian, and definitely looking for more of that. Thinking about that, Lola's with more of the same, and whether they're going to be able to effectively kind of stomach that aggression. In the later game, I think this Maokai is going to be absolutely fantastic, but might have some weakness early, even with some of that healing which you get from the passive into some of these more spellcasty champions. It just might be difficult to deal with the kind of onslaught that the Man of Metal brings.
Oh, absolutely, Rook. You're right in the fact that it's just going to be super hard for someone like Cisse to get out of the laning phase and really get into that team fighting state where he wants to be. Mordekaiser is all about being a frontline tank. It's all about engaging, but Mordekaiser is all about 1v1s and split pushing, and you're not going to be allowed to get into that state. So Cisse is going to have a hard time here in the early game. And my prediction is he's not going to be able to move into that team fight state as well. I'm open to being proven wrong. Samus is an aggressive jungler that we've talked about is his preferred play style. Now let's just see if he can use that to some great effect, as we're about to move into the game, and unfortunately I didn't get a chance to check whether or not Bonakai is using Grasp of Undying or the Glacial Augment. Perhaps production can tell me. Hopefully he can.
But yeah, we are just trying to load on in, and it is Grasp.
Okay.
So how does that really change things up?
Okay, so that means that you're not going to have as much slow as you could have had alongside that Ashe, obviously, with the Glacial Augment. Attacking someone, and we're talking about a boss lane that's all about poking. Attacking someone will not slow them, but instead, you're going to really just get a lot of health by poking. So like every 4 seconds in combat, your next basic attack will give you that permanent 5 health. And if you can do that a lot in bottom lane and continue to poke, this Senna is going to be a super strong champion moving into those 20 minutes where she most likely will have received at least 200 extra health.
Like the Split Raiders are actually expecting this invade, and there was something. There'll be a ward placed on those Raptors, but they don't catch them trying to move into the top side. They don't catch anyone out. Instead, Kayron kind of slips on in towards the mid area of that top side. And this is a really nice ward. It tells you so much about the Ivan's pathing, as it tells you where he's going to be starting. They're going to actually catch him as he moves on through. It won't tell you exactly the order of camps in the early game, and I don't think it's quite enough information there because obviously it was placed quite late, and you probably won't spot him. But it does kind of tell you if he's going for something more aggressive, if he's heading towards your side, and how he's really pathing for his ganks as well.
Yes, and now you have an idea that he's going to go down and start down towards that blue buff as well, Rook. Seeing as how he walked over that ward, you're not 100% sure, but you get a good idea, and this is going to mean the world for Samus here in this early game. We've already talked about how Samus is on a champion that excels at Samus's preferred playstyle. So just getting that much information against Sainzu means a lot. And now Samus is in the mid lane.
Is that aggressive gank early on. Dash and flash from Flamey there just about keeps him alive. But some really aggressive stuff early on from Samus and proving to us why people pick kill way back when.
Well, and also proving the fact that we've talked about Samus's aggression, moving straight from the mid lane into the jungle of Sainzu, looking for kills and looking for, camp to steal away. But Flamey is moving up, has an ignite.
Yeah, Samus might just get caught out here really awkwardly. Does get the root. That could be huge. The ignite already popped. Samus trying to turn it around. Flamey is the one who goes down. And with Sis coming down to try and help this, Sainzu has to back off. Lolas is getting that shield, but this isn't going to lead to all too much for them. Split Raiders tried to find these early kills, but it just wasn't enough. Lolas trying to get this kill back, but doesn't find anything. However, doesn't waste his flash.
And during that fight, Katama was moving up from the bottom lane. Not quite sure why, but it means that Whisper is able to farm just a tad without getting poked. And 2 kills moving over to Glorious Gaming. Split Raiders not putting themselves in a good start here in this game, as those 2 kills moves into their primary early game carries, Samus and Perun.
Yeah, it certainly is going to be, and really important in the way it kind of split them up. Sainzu will be ahead on farm, but you're always going to be expecting that for this Ivan into Camille. Even when she was meta, she wasn't really good for setting up that farm. She was really good for setting up those ganks, and I expect more aggression from Samus, and probably continue to be so successful.
But for Samus, getting this aggression early on and then getting rewarded by getting a flash onto Flamey, getting a kill as well, means that you've opened up for return gank into the mid lane and for Samus to even go down towards bottom side and play, but now looking towards the top side instead.
Indeed he is. Lola's putting a lot of pressure down. Sis has to be careful here. Is just about going to go down, but Lolus has to expend that flash and is going to go down to Samus as well. Really nice stuff there. Actually, Lolus might just be able to win this. You can see that Sainzu is already coming. There is the root. There is the kill. Sainzu picks up that one. And fantastic stuff for Split Raiders, as that advantage that Glorious Gaming picked up early on is now moot.
But obviously being aggressive in the early game, Rook, is a dual sword, right? You have 2 edges on that one, and it can really hurt you. Samus moves too aggressive early on, as Sisei moves in too early as well. Takes too much damage from Lola's rather, and it means that 2 kills move back into Split Raiders. And Glorious Gaming, that lead that they were looking for, looks so much worse. But Samus is back for round 2.
Certainly isn't. This time, Lola's maybe going to get caught out. It's 2 levels up on both of these players, but a lot of pressure on them right now. Has to be careful. Manages to dodge most of it, but that stun is going to be massive. And there is the follow-up CC. You can try as you might, Lolas, but unfortunately, that isn't enough. Nice play there by Samus to pick that one up and continue that pressure onto the top side. That is going to be very important.
And we're back into a stalemate now with 8.2k on the two teams, Rook. But for Saints, I feel like he is the real winner of that trade up in the top side, or well, trades, I guess, seeing as how there was around number 2. Saints grabbing up his boots means that he can now start to move faster, and he can really become a menace towards Samus. If he can start to grab up these camps and steal them away from Samus and start to move down towards the bottom lane or even into the mid lane and grab up those kills, Saints can really just stop all the aggression from Samus. Saints now looking down towards the bottom lane, stealing away a camp, and well, Whisper and Kayron, they have to be careful.
They do, and I like that Split Raiders are getting aggressive here. It's not their prerogative, it's not necessary like it is for for Glorious Gaming, but they're set up really well here. Kayron with a good flash will just about be able to survive, but a lot of stuff expended here, and Saints might just get caught out. Samus is already on that flank. The help is coming. There will be Flamey just over the horizon. They're setting up for it. There is a really nice route. A lot coming onto Samus there, and Flame is able to pick up that one. Now ahead in lane and gotten that kill. The ultimate whiffs, unfortunately, for Perun there, but it might be this Ashe going down if not for Bonakai to save.
Saints uses so much time down on the bottom side that Samus has to respawn, and with all his shields can just wait for the cavalry to come down there. One kill moves into Flamey, and as you mentioned, up in CS now, up in 1 kill as well. The mid lane that we were talking about from Split can do so much more damage now when they are up. Bonkai had to flash out, had to use that barrier as well, but Split Raiders, they're grabbing up so much for themselves here in this early game.
Yeah, they are. A lot of damage coming onto Kayron. He might just go down to this Ivan. No, there's so much. There's Saintsu. Has to flash away, but doesn't go down as a response. Samus is in a real big pickle here. Likely going to go down, but Bonakai will fall as well. A lot of damage. Barely goes down here, tries to get the stun and finish things off, but the shield is just about there. GG Whisper tries to finish off with that 4-shot, but so much shielding, and Saintsu ready in place will be able to keep them alive, and this is really impressive from Saintsu right now.
Such a chaotic game ends up turning in the favor here of the Split Raiders. Saintsu might just bite over a tad too much as he goes for the Infernal Drake, and Katana already started to just shut up. Goes down to Perun, so 2 kills now in the hand of Perun, looking like the one that has to carry Glorious Gaming through this early game, where the Split Raiders, they are showing up, they are controlling this map. And even though it's looking super chaotic, the Split Raiders having all these heals and all these shields just helps them so much to control this game.
It does, and here's that replay. Early aggression from Saintsu here. Takes a little damage in response. The shield does keep them somewhat alive, but they just about managed to flash out here. Bonakai very happy to try and collapse, and this is a really nice route. Sometimes these bushes can be a bit of a problem, and you see them have to get aggressive and forward, and that actually allows Samus to pick up this kill. But you can see the vision getting toggled there, and this is why Saintsu was so darn close. But you see that Seed managing to just about keep him alive, and Whisper isn't long for this world. Really nice stuff there, but you can see right at the end here as it's going to come on in. Actually, Katana's going to get sniped, and we were talking about Perun having to make that play, but honestly, Perun, I think, need to have more pressure on the map, because right now they've just been late to every fight as much as they've picked up these 2 kills.
But it is a consolation prize, Rook, as Split Raiders, they get those kills on their carries, but they also get that Infernal Drake. Flamey mate, you're too far up.
Yep, and he is gonzo. Really nice timing as well from Samus to help that one, and Perun making the plays that we were asking from them.
And alongside Samus, that aggressive early game jungler, Perun now with 2 kills, grabbing up that bounty, grabbing up a 3rd kill, and talking about kills.
That was a really nice Enchanted Crystal Arrow coming out from Electric God, but unfortunately not quite enough to finish it off as they were a little bit further back. We'll see. Nice attempted route there from Saintsu, but it gets blocked by the small Raptor, and as a result, they're not able to pick it up. A lot of pressure on the bot side right now, but everything else kind of leading to a stalemate.
We're probably not going to see too much more aggression down towards the bottom side, seeing as how there's not going to be a Drake for the next 3 minutes and 15 seconds, Rook. But that gives us a time, now that everything is slowing down a bit, to talk about why it didn't work out for Glorious Gaming down towards the bottom side. We said that they had to play with Camille, but we talked about that after this gank in the top side. That's about to happen with Ivan moving in.
Yeah, they're going to go for this dive, and diving a Maokai generally quite hard, but the setup is really nice there. They managed to put a lot of damage onto him. Saintu has to be careful. It's actually going to fall to the tower, but Lolo's actually able to set this up and probably can get a little bit of stuff unless this play right here from Samus leads to enough. Kayron had rotated up in time. They forced out the flash, and that was a fail and a half from Split Rainers. They tried to go for the drive. They tried to set up for it, but it's going to lead to Glorious Gaming picking up this red tower.
Not only do they lose the bounty on Saintu, the Rift Hilt, as you mentioned, Rook, will move over to the Glorious Gaming, so Split Raiders getting punished really hard for making these mistakes. And honestly, it's very uncharacteristic. I feel like they've been super good here in this early game, but Saintu moving in too early, taking up that tower, meant that suddenly he was just too low, and without a flash, you can't afford to make those mistakes.
GG. Samus a little bit early on that Gromp, but on the whole has been really good. Actually keeping up in farm with this Ivan, forcing the pace of the game into their own hands, has been very present on the map. Died a couple more times than we would have liked, but keeping Glorious Gaming in it. But the worry I have is that the later this game goes, the less they're going to really be able to stand up. And Flamey continuing to put this pressure on Perun really worries me. Has that ultimate, but the backup is there as well from Saintu, even though Samus is looking to try and help.
But moving back to one of the points that we talked about, Rook, earlier on in this game, we talked about how Glorious Gaming, they had to play around the bottom side with Camille and Zerlican. That was the way that they could grab up these kills, but the problem was that in the early game, the Split Raiders, they just had too much shielding in order to really grab up those kills, and, well, Flamey is gonna survive, but back to the point, they had too many shields in order for Glorious Gaming to find those kills, and Saintu did a great job at reading Samus like a book and being able to just move into the lane whenever Samus wasn't in the lane, but oh my god.
Being read like a book. Electric got there, overstaying, getting caught out, and Flamey really worried. He's going to lose this mid tower. They're not going to be able to really stop them, and he's going to be able to pick up this farm. But now this pressure is going to be really important, as he's not really going to be able to exert anything onto Glorious, onto Glorious Gaming early on here.
Saints looking for a fight. Probably won't be able to get that, but with that Rift Hilt, they grab up that first tower of the game. A few platings in the bottom side will fall as well, and that's Lawless coming in here.
Yeah, and he's just going to Death Realm straight away. Tries to cleanse it, but no, you just can't. He's going to go down. There's no ifs or buts about it. Really nice stuff there from Lawless. Teleporting in and just taking him right on down. Flamey going to be able to clear this ward, and they're setting up for this mid jungle, sorry, for this dragon right now. Perun, not long for this world, but he's going to be able to take off the map. That was a mistake and a half from Flamey, as he just gets hit by that binding and is gone. And I was not believing in this Lux before, but right now, Perun really is making it work.
And this could very well mean that you can't grab that Drake that's just spawned down towards the bottom side, Rook. I was about to say that I really like the play from Electric God down towards the bottom side to use that arrow and for Lawless to then move into that bottom side with the teleport. You had so much power down in the bottom side as you killed Whisper, but then going up towards Perun as well meant that suddenly your agency down towards the bottom side had been removed and you couldn't grab up that Drake. It's going to go into the hands of Glorious Gaming? Yeah, it will. And a fight will happen.
Yeah, this is the thing. They didn't have the TP either on Lawless because they just used it. Split Raiders were just really caught out. We will see Kayron going down, but that goes on to Saintu yet again, and he's been very bloodthirsty on this Ivan so far. You have to be careful, however. You want to put this gold on someone else, and as a result, Flamey really been struggling to put up these numbers. Perun just turns around, hits that binding, and you are gone again. Needs to be careful not showing up on these AD characters right now, as he's just not been able to do it. Lawless under a lot of pressure, has that ultimate ready, and is looking to try and finish people off, but we will see that gun show come out from the Jhin, and just about managed to take him down alongside Perun. Such aggression. Really nice ultimate there from Samus. Catches the flash and everything, and that is a dead player and a half for Bonakai. That was a flash on the spot, though, from Samus. So at least he got something.
Oh, but it's not over yet. Sensu still alive, but not for long as Perun is looking for that fight.
There's the dash. Samus will pick it up. Enchanted Crystal Arrow doesn't hit. Electric God is not on for the world. The hook lands. And Glorious Gaming, absolutely fantastic when they have control of this tempo. And Split Raiders just have not really been able to stand up in the same way. As they're not playing towards the late game as much, and it's been hard for them as a result.
That's an unofficial ace coming in for Glorious Gaming. And just to hit up on your point, Rook, Split Raiders, they have such a fragile comp in this game. And I feel like they played the early game super damn well. Wrapping up these fights on their own terms where they could use these shields and just prolong the fight so much that the CC and the shields was too much for Glorious Gaming to deal with. But now, once they fed up Perun and they keep on just running straight into Perun's bindings, you're gonna get just immediately blown up. And that really doesn't help you win this game. So Glorious Gaming, while they only have a 3k lead, it feels so much more because they are really just the ones dictating the pace and the tempo of the game. But all the gold right now lies in the hands of Samus and Perun, but they're a deadly combo. And if you aren't careful, Flamey or someone else could get hit by that binding again, as apparently Split Raiders, they keep on just running into the binding.
I have is 60 minutes, and they don't actually have that much advantage, only 1.5k. They're putting a lot of players up, and Lotus gets hit by the hook. I was asking the question, are you good at hitting these K-Ron? You are, but unfortunately, you only brought your own doom. Really nice death throw there as well from Lotus, managing to dodge the ultimate from Perun. Fantastic stuff, and will net themselves that in a situation where he shouldn't have been picking up anything.
Trading that back, and now Perun has no ult just for a few more seconds, but Samus is moving down towards the bottom side, looking for Electric God and Bonakai.
They're going to be wailing on that top tower, but again, we use that Jhin popping the ult, getting a lot of pressure off of it. Won't be able to actually take too much health away from Lotus because of that shield, but continuing to try and stop them from taking the tower, and that's why we have seen Split Raiders not actually take one yet.
Split Raiders, they have such a hard decision to make right now, Rook. They want to keep on fighting, but they're a fragile comp. They're all AD. So someone like Sisei can just itemize full on AD from now. Has all the items you need to deal with that Mordekaiser in the side lane, where Mordekaiser will be split pushing. So for the Split Raiders, the decision that they have to make is to continue to fight, to try to scale up. Right now, they're trying to fight with those Blade of the Ruined Kings. They bought themselves just a bit of a power spike here in this early game, but you're not going to be able to win against Glorious Gaming in a 5v5. They just have more damage, they have more burst, and they have a stronger front line.
They certainly do, and that's been the real problem, honestly, the burst for Split Raiders is every single time Perun sets up, Samus will find someone on the flank and deal so much damage to them in such a short period of time. The Triforce as well has just been so key in amplifying that damage, and that's obviously a huge power spike for this Camille. Well, quickly, sorry. There's a Medjay's on Perun. That's how confident he is right now, 8-1.
I was just about to point that out, that the Medjay's is nearly fully stacked, Rogue. So Perun looking super confident, sitting with a 400 gold bounty. Drake about to spawn, and once again, we have to keep an eye out on Flamey and Electric God. Those two players, one has a lot of mobility, one doesn't, but both have been hit by that binding multiple times so far in this game. If Perun lands a binding, that's going to be one of them dead immediately with all the AP that Perun currently has in his inventory.
It's going to be very, very scary, honestly. I'm interested to see as Oblivion will come out. I don't know whether it'll actually end up in that Morello Nomicon or whether they're just building it early on here. They have got the items to try and build towards it, but yeah. Glorious Gaming going to pick up their second Drake and looking towards kind of a 26-minute, more 30-minute Soul if they can get the next two.
We're talking about the item from Lux. I feel like at this point in time, when you have so many kills, you could just afford to go straight into a death cap. But talking about death, Bonakai nearly getting hit.
Yeah, it will still be the Hextech ultimatum coming out from Samus, and Bodakai tries, you can't run out of there. Realizes, tries to turn and fight at least a little bit, but right now, Split Raiders just getting caught out all across the map, and Glorious Game have really been going to town. As soon as they find a single person, they just blow them up.
Now looking for a tower. With that Rift Cell, they can force this down, and there's no one to defend. You don't really have any way to engage from the Split Raiders, and you don't even want to. You can't win a fight.
You certainly can't. And actually, something I've been really impressed with, you have to be careful if you're Flamey here. The flash even coming out from Samus here. He takes a lot of damage. He has to be back-stepping here. Flamey just about able to survive. Samus beats a retreat. Teleport comes on in from Sis. The engage comes in from Lola, so he gets hooked. He's going to continue to try and find this fight. Kayron is Death Realm, is going to go down, but so is Flamey. There it is. So much damage from Whisper, so much damage from Perun. They're going to keep on going with this fight. He still hasn't finished him on off. Sis, so darn tanky, finally falls, but Glorious Gaming overstay. And I was going to say, Split Raiders, sure, they're down 4 kills. They're down a tower, but actually the gold really isn't that different.
It absolutely isn't, and it does mean that Split Raiders, what they are afraid of is that tempo, giving too much gold over to Glorious Gaming, the team that right now dictates the pace of the game. But Glorious Gaming, they overextend just a tad too much. But with Split Raiders not being able to grab up a Drake, as that is still dead, they don't really grab anything else from that fight, and basically we just end up back in a stalemate, Rook.
This game, other than Glorious Gaming kind of setting up, trying to play around those stalemates, something Split Raiders have really succeeded in, and you can see that from their picks for the most part, is actually playing towards those stalemates, playing to scale. But with Flamey on this Lucian, rather than, well, for example, something like that Cassiopeia, like that Vlad, which is very, very good in the late game, they're kind of struggling in that regard. They can't just sit back and let it happen, as they really need to play around him effectively. And he's 1-6, so he's just not been having the game we wanted him to.
Now, we said that Flamey would be looking for kills with this Lucian, that it was all about a kill lane, especially with Ignite, but Flamey's the one that's been dying multiple times.
That is such a beautiful ult there from Perun. Saints, who isn't long for this world either, and so much damage coming out. 4-man top leads to that. Sis trying to keep Lolas at bay. He might be able to take him down, but there's so much tankiness, and Sis should just be able to escape from here. What do you really do if you're Lola? The rest of your team has fallen over the other side of the map, and honestly, really nice stuff so far from Glorious Gaming. They're just going to be able to pick up this Baron.
Glorious Gaming, they're punishing the Split Raiders for all the times that they overextend, all the ways that they overextend as well. Right again, Flamey is the catalyst to Split Raiders dying right there, pushing super far up the lane where you had no reason to be, really. Like, you obviously want to push up that lane, but you have no vision, so you can't do that. You lose 3 members, you lose the Baron, and this could very well be Glorious Gaming with an upset right here. Now with 9 kills on Perun, 7 deaths on Flamey, Split Raiders, they're having such a hard time dealing with this difference in the mid lane.
Yeah, Flamey just about able to dodge that hook. Really nice stuff. But as you're saying, so much damage left, right, and center. Flamey hit by just, honestly, a raw ultimate from Perun there. And Final Light deals so much damage right now because fully stacked Magi's, 2 items alongside that, Sork Boots, and a needlessly large rod. Perun is just stacking damage after damage after damage.
Now, next item will be a death cap, but for Seisu, next item, well, you're going to be able to buy that as soon as you're going back to the base.
Absolutely will. And nice dash there from Seisu to try and pick that one up, but continuing to try and put pressure on the map all over the place. They have these Baron and Power minions. They want to put them to good use.
Looking to push down towards the bottom side. Sisse has been pushing up that lane, and for the Split Raiders, it's been a huge problem for them. We talked about how Lawless wanted to be a split pusher. Well, he hasn't been allowed to be a split pusher at all in this game because Glorious Gaming, they've been grouping up, and that's just denied Split Raiders from dealing with the side lanes.
Dude, it has. That slow is going to be massive. The kill onto Bonakai. The final shot barely misses out on one of those players there, but Lolas dies regardless. This might just be game. Samus helps take down helps take down the tower, and the inhib is not far behind. They're going to be setting up to try and push on in, and with 2 players down for at least 15 seconds, Split Raiders are really going to be struggling to stop this advance right now.
They can't stop Glorious Gaming at all. Glorious Gaming, they ended up dead last in the last split. I was just expecting them to try and look for some experience against the top teams here today, Rogue, but instead, they're giving us one hell of a show, and they're saying, top teams? We're one of those top teams.
They're going to head towards the dragon, pick it up. They didn't overextend. They didn't try and get caught out there. Really nice stuff for not disrespecting Split Raiders. You know they can win fights. You've seen them do it before. You get in the wrong position, you'll easily fall. So just going for this dragon, setting up for Soul in 5 minutes. The clock is ticking, and Split Raiders, they really need to do something about it.
It's a safe way to play this game, and I respect it. It would have been nice to see Glorious Gaming go all the way for that finish, but you're right, Rook. Now they have the pressure of that soul that's going to be spawning 1.5 minutes after that Baron. So Glorious Gaming, if they don't immediately move over towards the Baron and try and burst that up, they could set Split Raiders up for a really bad situation where they had to choose to either get like one disease or another. But Flamey,
you need to not be there. Saint Su's there to back him up. This tower is not long for this world.
Man, I don't even think Saint Su would be a backup at this point in time, having died 4 times. It's more like a very unstable bridge that Flamey has to walk over in order to get away.
It is. Flamey has to be careful here. Bindings, roots, and everything. The shield will keep him alive. He doesn't actually take that much damage as a result, but so much is being output there. GG continually looking to push onto this tower, put the pressure on, and you can see Samus also split pushing mid, bringing that wave in so they can start to pressure that inhib tower and the inhibitor itself.
With the bottom lane pushing in, Lawless has to deal with that, but also has to be there for that potential team fight here against the Glorious Gaming. Glorious Gaming, there's no need for them to just hard commit right here. They can wait for those minions in the bottom lane to push in and just take down this tower bit by bit.
They can bit by bit, it certainly is. They're just going to throw out those spells, try and keep people low, put pressure on them. But honestly, with minions knocking at their base, it's so darn hard. Lolas gets taken down in a flash. This top inhib tower is going to go down. The inhib in mid is going to fall. Samus, they just can't get onto him. He's so darn movable. It's hard to get around him. There we see another fall as Bonakai is no longer on the map. Saint Su is next, and it seems like Electric God isn't long for this world either. Flamey here on the solution, trying to prove something, but all he did was prove himself wrong. A terrible game from him, and honestly, a fantastic game from Glorious Gaming. It's Perun showing up on this comfort pick of the lot.
Flamey got punished early on in that mid lane, lost that flash, and that ended up giving 2 early kills over to Samus and Perun, 2 players that just dictated the entire pace of the game, Rook, for the remainder of this very short game between Glorious Gaming and Split Raiders. Was it by any means perfect by Glorious Gaming? No, but it got the job done. It was super aggressive, and the Split Raiders, they were not ready to deal with that.
Certainly weren't, and they weren't ready for the week of upsets. Fantastic stuff. It seems like the lower seed was always down to win, as Glorious Gaming do pick that one up in pretty emphatic fashion. I want to see actually a return to what he's comfortable on for Flamey, because I think in terms of underperforming, they were the big problem there. We saw actually that Electric God and Bonakai had a really good game. Saint Su was putting out those numbers. Lolas actually really performed. But in that mid lane, he wasn't able to stand up Perun on this Lux. And I mean, Perun had a field day. You saw the Magi's. You can see the damage numbers now. What an impressive game.
Mortar was the key to everything for the Split Raiders. Couldn't activate that, couldn't get the key into the keyhole, Rogue, and that means that they end up falling. He was supposed to be that split pusher that could lead them in to the late game. But unfortunately, Flamey dies 8 too many times. And Glorious Gaming, well, they're going to start to move up in the standing right here now, probably not sharing that 5th place anymore. And honestly, you just have to get into top 6 in order to get playoffs. So for Glorious Gaming, a team that did super poorly in the last split, ending eighth place out of eighth place. Sorry, eight out of eighth total places. They uh they are more than happy, I'm sure, with the way that things are going here in the split.
I mean, they absolutely are. Picking up these wins allows them to set themselves apart from obviously the 2-0 week of Lions Creed today. You have to be careful about that, and really nice stuff to keep themselves ahead of the pack. And unfortunately, for the side of kind of Saints in the gang, they're not able to show up here. And the disappointing part mainly is that they were looking to really solidify their place in the rankings, take themselves to 8 wins, set themselves up to pick up those first and one either first or second seed so that they can skip to those semifinals. And I mean, that just didn't happen today.
Oh, it didn't at all, and it is surprising to see a team like the Split Raiders lose, considering how they won the last split, Rook. But it's a new split in total, and they have a lot to live up to. Today just didn't really remind us of the Split Raiders from the last split.
It certainly does, and I mean, it's sad to see them end up like this. You can see that their numbers just weren't up to snuff, and I mean, I want to see Flamey not give up on the solution though. I want to see him take it back into scrim,
Hmm.
take it back into solo queue practice, find something else like this because I think actually having that variety isn't a bad thing to do, but it just isn't working in out right now in official.
I agree with you, Rogue. I feel like the pick could have been so much better, but unfortunately, this time around, it didn't work out. And you know, I'm just looking forward to see it perhaps work out moving into playoffs. But Rook, you know what? That means this is the end of the game here and possibly the end of the broadcast. We just have one more interview to come up.
We certainly do. Whisper is going to have a chat to Sarge, and that's coming up right now.
Hello, everybody. I am Visage, joined with Whisper, the AD carry for Glorious Gaming, in your victory over Split Raiders in what must be said is quite an upset. How are you feeling after that game?
To be honest, I'm still shaking. I'm still pretty hyped. I don't even know what happened today. We expected to have a chance in the first game, and we didn't really expect to do much in the second, I guess. I got called down by my parents, and I was like, "Yeah, I'll be there in 20 minutes." But yeah.
Well, I mean, it certainly was a quick game, but perhaps not the way people were expecting. It's fair to say that with some of the roster changes, I think people were skeptical about Glorious Gaming coming into this weekend of play. And, with the game against Lions Creed not looking particularly great, you weren't really pinned to have much of a chance against Split Raiders. So what do you think it is that kind of got you the win there? Was it just these slightly unorthodox picks of the Lux, Virginia Blitzcrank, or what happened in that game?
Yeah, to be honest, I think we had a really good draft. We picked the Chen, the Blitzcrank, and the Lux. I wanted to pick Chen actually just to try it. I've always liked the champion. It's one of my favorite champions of all time, I guess. And he's starting to get back in the meta. And we were like, okay, we're gonna need to do something special to win this game. So we just went with a pick comp, and it worked out like you saw. We saw the Ash actually and the Senna. We were like, okay, this is gonna happen. We're gonna do it, and it's gonna work.
Well, it's certainly managed to find some success for you, and Lux in the mid lane as well. You had a really strong synergy, it seemed, between jungle and mid lane. Really trying hard to put GMX behind in the Lions Creed game. Both for Camille and Lux doing really well in this game as well. Is that something that we can expect to see more of from Glorious Gaming going forwards, or was that kind of a specialty of this roster for this weekend?
I think it was a specialty for this roster. We grind flex queue together sometimes, so I guess that's where the synergy comes from. Of course, we're also all teammates. I played the first 2 seasons of SQ1 with Perun and Samus, so yeah, the synergy is clearly still here.
Yeah, it was certainly working out well. And while we look at that game and this weekend being a bit of a mixed bag for the team, that kind of sums up the split as a whole. But you are kind of towards the lower end of the table, but still, you're still taking games off people. You are still looking strong as a team. Do you think you're going to be making it through into playoffs? Do you feel like you are stronger than your opponents below you at the minute? And how do you rate your chances for playoffs if you do make it?
Yeah, we definitely expect to be in playoffs today. Of course, we had to play with an alternate roster just because our main League of Legends team was playing in a Benelux tournament where they smashed the groups as well. So next week they will be back, and I expect them to do really well and at least get to playoffs.
Excellent. Well, next week it's perhaps one of the hardest weeks for Glorious Gaming. You start off with Resolve as your first game, and then going into Black Lions afterwards. Two of the stronger teams within the league. Are you a little worried, or are you feeling confident?
To be honest, we have never been worried. We have had some shaky games, I guess, but we've always been able to pull through and at least win some of the matches. Like the goal was never to smash in the group stage. I guess we always just wanted to get playoffs, improve as a team, and then yeah, I mean, if you get playoffs, that's all that matters. In playoffs, things will change. Every mistake that we made in the regular season can be fixed by just a few games. So I expect that I don't really worry for next week. I guess I don't know what's gonna happen, but the last week we'll play versus Upsolved and Core Dynamic, so I expect to yeah to do well.
Well, it's certainly a good mindset to have, worrying about playoffs kind of when you get there and just focusing on that goal. And, Glorious Gaming looking like you are on track to do that. But that's all we're going to have time for today in SQ1. Tune in at the same time tomorrow when we have some of our really important games coming up. We've got the rematch of Black Lion versus Sparks. That is going to be bloody. Both teams at the top end of the table. And it could be potentially what decides who gets first, second, or third seed. Then have Resolve versus Black Lions as well. So there's a lot of good games coming tomorrow. We'll be back, same place, same time. You know where to catch us. Have a good day, and we will see you once again tomorrow.